dear viewers of the podcast Caught in the Motion. With me, the main host, Yavor Ivanov, and with my favorite co-host, Kubrat Ivanov, more known as Kubi.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode, where we are joined by a very special guest named Kirsten Beswick. She graduated with her diploma in counselling in 2018, her diploma in digital marketing in 2019, and offers a wide range of experience throughout her career as she has worked in sales, account management, events, and marketing. So hello Kirsten, how are you today? It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much guys for having me.
Super
excited to be here.
And to accept our invitation. Really, we are pleased you're here today. I know it took a bit while to arrange it, but the main thing is finally it happens and it's great.
Yeah.
I have the honor to ask the first question.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Where are you from, Kirsten, and how long you have been in Ireland?
So, from South Africa, Johannesburg, and was born in the south of Joburg and moved to the north of Johannesburg. And born and bred in Johannesburg and been living in Ireland now for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that what brought you to Ireland? Was it occupation, a job, or were you just looking for...
Just absolutely, it just happened. We literally just packed up, sold our house, packed our bags, put everything in a cube, and we just made our way over
Really?
here. No jobs, no house to live in. It was something we had been speaking about for quite a few years before we made the move. And when my husband got his Irish passport through his mum, we just thought, you know what, let's start a new journey. Let's just do it. Life's so short.
Yeah.
And we booked the tickets and we just said, let's just do it. And we arrived on the 31st of March 2022 and no place to stay. Literally just booked a hotel in Sandymount for a couple of days. And the hotel room was like really, really small. So it was like a bit too small for all of us with all our luggage and everything.
Yeah.
So we ended up going to Greystones and we moved about 7 times in Ireland before we found our first place to rent.
Yeah.
And we were so lucky to be able to find the place where we at in Dunleary. And it was just all just worked out. So no jobs, no house to go to, just
hard beginning.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's my one thought coming in my mind. I read somewhere the destiny loves the brave ones.
Yes.
And if you, I noticed with a few brave people like you, because it is take a courage to do that because it's so far away. You didn't have anybody here.
Yeah.
You didn't have a job. People come out with setup of job, accommodation, relatives, friends, and the things are much smoother. But for you, you're the brave ones that take this journey and said, no, I don't want to postpone it any longer.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it, and which is fantastic.
I couldn't do such a thing. I like having everything in order, plans.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have to be that sort of person as well to be able.
Yeah, it was a weird one because we had discussed it, but we just never did it. I don't know what was holding us back, and I think the way things were going back home, it just got to a point where we were like, okay, it is time now to make that decision and make that step. And as hard as it was, leaving family behind, leaving friends behind, taking our daughter out of school and her friends. Yeah. But we knew it was going to be a better option in the long term for her, especially. And we just did it. And it was stressful because there were a few times where we didn't know where we were going to actually stay. Yeah. It was also around the time where a lot of the hotels were booked,
closed.
Closed, and were also booked up there was some sort of like the war at that stage around that stage that was happening. Yeah. So there was a lot going on, and we didn't know where we were actually going to be. So we actually had to leave Dublin for about a week or so, just to stay somewhere. So we figured things out. But it was, it's really made us very, I suppose, resilient. Yeah. And to know if we can do that, we can kind of do anything.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't imagine doing it myself. So It's a risky move, but I
Yeah.
think you found
Yeah.
a great amount of friends
did,
here,
yeah,
and the
definitely.
culture here is
Yeah.
great.
Job
Yeah.
and everything. Because sometimes people forget that they look at the facade of a family or a person and saying, "Oh well, look, she's successful, he's successful," or "Look at this family, they're great," but they really don't know what was behind to do
Yeah.
this success.
Yeah.
That it was
Definitely.
a lot of stress, hard work,
Yeah.
and probably a bit of luck as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, how I said, the destiny loves the brave ones.
And what is one thing that you miss from South Africa?
Yeah.
And then a follow-on question is,
Yeah.
what is one thing that you would take from Ireland and bring over to South Africa?
Wow. So one thing I personally miss from South Africa is the sun.
The sun, yeah,
Is
of course.
the warm weather. That was, I think, the biggest thing, and it'll always be the one thing that I would
Yeah.
probably miss the most. Even though we've adjusted to the weather now in Ireland, and
Yeah.
we really like enjoy it, and
Yeah.
it's so different. But that it would be the
Yeah.
the biggest thing. And what I would bring from Ireland to South Africa, that's a tough one. Definitely transport.
Transport.
Yeah, I would say
A lot of
transport.
efficiency.
Just to help sort of people that can't afford vehicles, their own
Yeah.
cars, to be able to get to work and not have to rely on, like the taxis back in South Africa.
Yeah.
They not necessarily the most reliant, they're not
Yeah.
the safest. So being able to bring more of Ireland's sort of public transport into South Africa would really help, and it
Yeah.
would just ease a lot of difficulty for a lot of people.
And would that be the primary source of transport? Would be taxis
Yeah.
throughout long distance? And would they be as expensive as in Ireland since they're more frequently used, or it's more so a necessity? Or?
Yeah, I suppose, there were two different types of taxis. So you
Okay.
almost have like your free now type of taxis
Yeah.
and like your Uber. But then you would have more of your domestic sort of taxis, which would be the main transport for a lot of the workers.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
a lot of your labourers, a lot of your people that needing to get to work.
Yeah.
And probably possibly a few people that were more battling to find work,
Yeah.
that would be coming into clean homes and helping people do their
Yeah.
gardens. So it was more for them, but price-wise, in terms of taxis, I mean, taxi fare for them,
Yeah.
for people in those positions, it was quite pricey
Yeah.
for them, which made it also something, very difficult for them, because
Yeah.
now, if they, earning a salary, maybe 3/4 of that is just
Yeah.
going towards transport. So yeah, it would be. It wouldn't be
Okay.
the.
You
Yeah.
mentioned safety there, and I remember just now one film about a very successful Bulgarian businessman who moved to South Africa. Like you moved here with no connections,
Yeah.
not one suitcase full of money, He didn't have as well much, but he set up a restaurant business, and he had a chain of restaurants in South Africa. And what you said about the safety, he was saying in this film about him and his wife, and if I'm not mistaken, was Cape Town. He said you don't stop in the red lights because they don't just point a gun and take the car and the
Yeah.
money. They shoot you,
Yeah.
which is scary.
Scary.
Usually
Scary.
the thieves take the money at the car, wherever it is there, but then they shoot. So that's I think what I see, what I heard is that the safety is a big issue, and that leads to my next question. Did the institutions, the state in general, and the economics of South Africa decline last 20 years?
Yeah, definitely. I'll say probably we started seeing a declining probably about over the 20 years or so, and it kind of just started getting worse as the years went on. And it wasn't so much the people or anything like that. It was just kind of, like you said, the state, the institution, the government. It's not looking after the people.
Yeah.
And where a lot of the bad things sort of happen would be more around people out of desperation more than them being evil people.
Yeah.
It would be a way to survive. So if they do, rob you or anything like that. It's usually because they're desperate. They're desperate for money. They're desperate for food, and but definitely there's been a big decline, and I think that was one of our biggest sort of motivators in a way to make the move, was because we could see where it was going, and you don't have that freedom, that overall safety. You wouldn't be able to walk. I mean, we would live very close to our daughter's school, literally like a 5-minute walk, not even. But we wouldn't feel safe for her to walk there. Even though nothing would have happened, and nothing ever has happened. We were never victims of anything bad or anything like that. But it was an overall safety. Where you just kind of feel that the energy, I suppose, around everything just makes you feel a little bit uncertain. But definitely a decline. But it always starts at the top, unfortunately.
Talking to you, I remember 2 people from South Africa. A few, but now 2, it's kind of coming in my mind. Our family fantastic optician, Sarah. She's from South Africa. I mean, I can't ask for better optician. She really looked after us very well. And I have a friend, we lost in touch with him, Alan, from Port Elizabeth. And he told me that was more than 20 years ago. So the decline starts somewhere there, I guess. He said that you cannot send even a letter or a little present to your relatives or friends. And I spoke with another South African, and I said, looking back in history as well, in the Roman Empire, when even the post office start to be not efficient or cease to exist, I think this is symptoms of decline and, if you like, disappearing of the civilization. Because if you are not able to send a simple letter, it means something very wrong is going there, in my opinion.
Exactly, and there was no such thing as getting a letter in your postbox. We would have those old school post boxes with the postbox key that you would go in and you'll get your post in there. But that was so many years ago. I mean, that was more than 15, 20 years ago, when everything was just very digital. But so when we moved to Ireland and we had a post box now, and everything comes in by post, and it's safe and it's there and it's in the post box, and it could be an important document, or I mean, when I had to get my Irish permit residence card, it arrived in the post box. It was still there. When I had to send my driver's license, my South African driver's license, to get it exchanged, it was just incredible that it was safe. Where in South Africa, it wouldn't be something like you would never do that, because it would get stolen, it would disappear. A lot of it was very opportunistic. So if there was an opportunity, people would take it. If they saw something, they would take it. And I think it was just, it's really sad, you know. So I think there's also that element of where you live. You know, you're living in a very closed estate. You got fencing around your house where you live. You kind of don't really go. If you go out outside, you go out in the car. Everything's in the car. There's no buses. There's no transport. Even if you want to go quickly up to the shop, you get in your car and you go. And so it's that freedom. It's that overall, and it's probably so different for so many people. And everyone's got different experiences and all of that. But I think for us mainly, it was a long-term thinking. And feeling less stressed. You know, South Africa was also very stressful. It was very rushed, very busy, especially Johannesburg. Cape Town's beautiful, slightly calmer, but more relaxed, same as Durban. But Johannesburg is just hustle. You know, you stressed, you on the move, you like going all the time. Where you come and you're like, wow, it's so peaceful.
No, it is. And just out of curiosity, a question came up. What's tourism like then? If somebody wants to visit South Africa, I'd suppose the same obviously applies for them, but how does it function? How do you still attract tourists if maybe, the securities...
I think a lot of people, what would attract South Africa the most from a tourism point of view would be your Cape Town, your Garden Route, your Kruger National Park, all these sort of really popular tourism places. And people will go there because of the beauty, because of what it has to offer. You know, it's got so much culture, so much diversity. And that's one thing that will always be close to us, is that diversity that South Africa carries. And that tourism, I mean, Table Mountain, for instance, people would go to Cape Town just to experience Table Mountain. Kruger National Park, one of the biggest national parks where you can see all the animals, the big five, and camping, safaris. You know, people wouldn't necessarily go to Johannesburg for any reason for tourism, because it's a very more cosmopolitan, very business orientated. But Cape Town, your garden route, Stellenbosch, you know, those are the places that people will go, and that's what still draws a lot of tourism in. But and I think, I mean, I speak to a lot of people still as well, and they're like, I've been to South Africa so many times, it's a beautiful country. And, you know, so from a tourism point of view, when people do go and experience it, they do realize how beautiful it actually is.
Unique,
But living there would be very different.
Of course.
But going there on a holiday, I think it would be amazing. Okay. The hotels are different. You know, your especially, I mean, if you're coming from, like, let's say Ireland, and you're wanting to go to tour to South Africa, you would get a lot for what you from a Euro point of view. So, you know, like the hotels there, the restaurants, the nightlife, the culture, it's so different. It's so modern. There's this almost like everything's just so, you know, pretty and modern. So
when you're saying being unique, it's well in the middle of South Africa. You have tiny two kingdoms. Lesotho, if I'm not mistaken, and Swaziland, no? But related to this question, it's come up in my mind. Do you think the tourism declined because of lack of security and safety last 20 years? Do you think decline, or is still the same levels of tourism?
I think I wouldn't actually really be able to know for certain. I think people would still have that interest to go. I don't think it's 100% decline to a point where no one wants to experience it. I think a lot of people will go to South Africa to get married. I've met a lot of people that have had family members getting married in South Africa because of just, you know, the scenery and everything like that. But there's that stereotype of South Africa that if people would have that automatic perception that South Africa is bad, or it's not a safe place to go to. But I think it hasn't affected too many people of going. So it's a hard question to answer, because we really need to kind of look into the...
unique, as you said again. You have the penguins, you have the desert, you have the mountain, you have...
We've got pretty much everything. And especially Cape Town. I mean, Cape Town is a place that if people have been there, they'll go again. And people would go there. So I don't think it's ever going to die.
It's such a beauty now. I just thought if it's any correlation there with the safety, the lack of safety last 20-25 years. But people, you know, which is great that still maybe the same levels of tourism is good for the country, it's good for the people who goes there to see such a unique place. The next question is, have you felt big South African presence in Ireland?
We have, especially in certain parts of Ireland that where we've been around. We've had a lot more. We've bumped into South Africans. There's definitely a big group of South Africans in Ireland, and it's really nice to be able to see that, you know. And when I hear a South African accent, it could be at work, or it could be in the shops, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is South African, you know. And then we start chatting to them, because it's just that familiarity of what's familiar.
Of course.
And you automatically connect. You automatically have this connection of, wow, okay, even if you don't come from the same part of South Africa, but you've just got this connection.
That's very nice. It's for an example, like there's I think around 30,000 Bulgarians in Ireland, I don't remember recently anyways. I've met one on the street or Bulgarian speech, and sometimes we're a bit different. There's different cultures.
Yeah.
If you see a Bulgarian, you won't even necessarily say hi. I remember a few years back I was in Lidl, and there was this kid, and I don't know how he heard, maybe my music was playing, and it was a bit. He goes, "Oh, mother, he's Bulgarian." Okay, it just pulls him across. So that's very different now. Hearing if we hear the South African accent, we say hello. It's not like that.
And here it's come up in my mind one question when you said it's a big presence of South Africans in Ireland. Why do you think is that? Because they love Ireland so much, or because South Africa doesn't offer them less?
Yeah, I think Ireland's probably an easier country to get into for a lot of South Africans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the gateway between South Africa and Ireland was sort of an easier in to the country, in the sense that a lot of South Africans would have some form of Irish heritage, and
but do you think because they were deprived a little bit in Africa, South Africa, with something, with opportunities, with well-paid jobs, with security? It could be thousands of reasons. Then Ireland offer and South Africa kind of.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would probably be safety. Safety, yeah.
Okay.
And kids.
Yeah.
Kids' safety,
of course.
kids' future, education. And when people look at it and think, okay, where do we go? Where do we go to immigrate for a better life? Because I would say, every South African we've spoken to in Ireland, and we've asked that question, what made you come to Ireland? Their biggest reason would always be around the safety aspects of it.
Okay. And that just shows how, unless you don't really have to go, and obviously it's different when you become a parent, how if you could stay where you've grown up your whole life, your relatives are there, you'd be willing to stay, so that just shows.
It was a hard decision. I was on the fence for quite a while before when we first started discussing immigration. It wasn't like something I wanted a huge amount at that time, but then it got to a point where we just said, we've got this opportunity, we just got to do it. And if it doesn't work out, we go back.
Go back home,
but it has to feel right for everyone.
Of course.
And when you moved, did you have to change your career, maybe whatever profession you worked as in South Africa, and then when you moved here, was there any legislative issues? Was there...
No, it was actually pretty seamless and easy to kind of get into. Once I got my Irish residence card, my stamp 4, which allowed me to work, I didn't have to worry about getting a specific working visa or there's different stamps. So because I got a stamp 4, I was able to do whatever, and I kind of always kept into the same industry that I was in. To South Africa. I was in real estate before we actually moved to Ireland. So that would have been, if I wanted to go back into that would have been a lot more difficult for me to get back into now in Ireland. But in terms from a career point of view, it's been very easy to kind of follow the same sort of industry type of thing.
Okay.
And the next question is related to the previous question. Could we ask you, what do you enjoy the most at your current job?
My current job? The diversity of what it is that I do. So I do sales involved with marketing. And now for the last, I would say probably 7 months or so, I've been heavily involved in tenders. So in doing the coordination and project management around submitting tenders for different work. So it could be within the lifting industry, it could be overhead gantry cranes, it could be passenger lifts in a care home, and we would tender for these big contracts. So my roles kind of evolved quite differently in this role that I'm in now. into more tender coordination and project management,
Yeah.
which I'm really enjoying, and I think I kind of found a passion for. I don't have any I never had, tender experience before. It was never something that was ever, it's never come up in my entire career. So it kind of just came up in this role, and I've just gone with it. I've made it my own. So the one thing I enjoy the most is the fact that I've been able to be out of my comfort zone completely and learning something that I would have never thought of doing. Exactly. And teaching myself, done a tender course and just learning as I'm doing, and that's been really exciting.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
But it's that variety that you enjoy now.
Exactly,
with sales, management, all the other aspects, marketing as well.
So a little bit of involved in a lot of sort of from sales, marketing, project management, and just that diversity of it's really, really nice.
And that's nice to hear, because now I'm going into university September, and you see a lot of people stressing about, whatever I choose to study, it's only one thing that I'm going to be doing. Even if I switch, it's just going to be one thing. If I want to be a GP or then a lawyer, or then they always stick to one. But what I've noticed, even with the amount of people that we've interviewed, including yourself now, that they go into a sphere and a certain topic, aspect, they realize, well, there's actually so much more to this. So an opportunity arises. Even with Professor Dylan Connors,
youngest professor in the United States. I have to say, I'm very proud to know the youngest professor and
to receive a tenure. And he said even on the podcast, he's like, I didn't want to study. I went to study because my parents pushed me to study. And he goes into UCD. He goes, I was going to push through this 4-year degree in geography. Because in the final year, I found one aspect of geography that was
grey area.
Yeah, grey area. There was no information on it, but he found it super interesting. Following his graduation, he specialized in this and then moves to America. So it just shows
he's paid with a PhD. They paid in
Arizona State University.
The one in LA paid his PhD, and then he also
moved the
professorship. The youngest professor, he wasn't still. He was only 30.
That's incredible. It just shows you.
He's a lovely man, very humble as well.
So it just shows. I just wanted to bring it up because
it does. And being versatile, I think that was one thing we learned in moving to Ireland, is that you have to be open-minded to what you're doing, because you can't. The culture's different. Everything is going to be different. So when you come and when you're looking for a job, and if you're too set on a specific role, a specific title, or a specific salary bracket, or whatever the case is, you are going to get disappointed.
It will be harder for you.
Exactly. You've got to almost see it as you got to start from the beginning again and work your way up. And that's what we had to do as well. We kind of got into something that was just a stepping stone into Ireland, to get used to the culture, the different ways that everyone works. Because it's obviously so different, the culture, everyone works differently. The accents are different, just everything's so different. So you have to be open-minded. And I think by being open-minded, then you also realize so much more. That, you've got so much more that you can do, you can branch out to. And there's a lot of people that don't make it because they are very set in their ways of what they want. So they don't want to start from the beginning. They want to start from where they left off, which was at the top in South Africa. And you can't have that mindset, because what you've left there, you've got to realize, unless you're very specific, like a doctor or something like that. But if you're in any sort of marketing role, sales, content, even anything like business management, copywriting, anything like that, you've got to be open-minded.
You have to establish yourself again.
You have to be flexible.
Because I'd extrapolate that even the same position, exact same role, functions differently in South Africa than it would in Ireland, because two different countries, the cultures are different, even the mindset. The law as well. Because even when you go as a tourist to another country, you see even how the supermarkets work. it just shows everything's different. The exact same thing,
Yeah.
exact same process, but it's different.
So different, yeah.
And
remember the Mexican guest we had?
Yeah.
This lovely lady. She said I was surprised with the doors. Remember the market?
yeah,
Automatic doors.
She
Yeah.
was like, oh, even this, you know,
Yeah.
for
Exactly.
everybody. Yeah.
I know, being able to have people that you have to pack your own shopping at the till.
yeah.
And for us, it was like, what do we do? Because in South Africa, you would have people packing
Really?
your shopping for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it was a job for them.
Mm-hmm,
It was, they would be employed by,
the
let's
shop.
say a Super Value, for instance,
Mhm.
we would have a spa.
Yeah.
And they would be employed by the shop,
To pack
and their
your
job would be to pack
Oh,
your groceries for
okay.
you.
Yeah.
And so when we came here, we like all of a sudden I had to pack our own groceries. We're like, oh, how does this work?
That's
Okay,
right.
that's cool. But then you realize that it works, and it's like, you know, so it's more efficient, and
Yeah.
it's quicker, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it actually works, and it's
Yeah.
really, really cool. But
Yeah.
in the first time, it was a shock. It was like,
In some way, maybe it's good because they give more jobs to the people in
Yeah.
South Africa.
yeah.
And that's remind me something from Turkey, a story that was a guy going around, young teenager, giving tea. And one Bulgarian businessman said to the Turkish bull, you have a coffee machine, you have tea here. Why are you buying from this boy? He said, because we want to keep him employed,
Yeah.
you know, to
Yeah.
have a job.
So
So,
and in South Africa,
in some ways, you know, it's good, but in some ways, I don't know, maybe how you said
Yeah.
it, you're faster packing your own
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
and
and I
save
suppose
your time
exactly
in this case.
exactly. And I suppose in South Africa it is good because there are so many people.
Yeah.
So
The population is much
That's it,
bigger
yeah.
and maybe the
So-
employment is higher.
yeah, so there's a lot more opportunity for them.
Yeah. And now moving back to sort of the transition from South Africa to
Yeah.
Ireland, what was one thing that you expected or had some sort of expectation about when you moved to Ireland, and one thing that surprised you, maybe in the short term living, or in the long term, maybe
Yeah.
something about the culture? What would be one thing that surprised you, one thing that you expected?
So we expected rain
Yeah.
and cold because we always had everyone asking us, "Why Ireland? It's so cold."
Yeah.
You know, so that was obviously expected. To be honest with you, I didn't have any major expectations. I didn't really, you know, expect
Yeah.
anything. And I think, you know, probably my husband, he might have expected to sort of like more everything working
Yeah.
and, you know, like things actually running properly. But for me, I kind of just kept an open mind. And I was
Yeah.
just like, you know, I'm not going to expect anything. Because sometimes when your expectations are too high, you
Yeah.
can get disappointed.
Yeah.
So my thinking was like, it's a brand new country, keep an open mind and just go
Yeah.
with it and embrace
Yeah.
embrace the unknown.
Yeah.
And
I-
so yeah.
I think
But,
that's the best way to go
Yeah.
about
My
it.
father, before I left Bulgaria 24 years ago, or more now, he said similar thing your mom said. In the sense, the same thing. He said, don't go to Ireland with the big spoon, go with the small one.
Exactly.
Because if you
yeah.
fly your dreams too high, how you said, then when you fall, the pain is
Exactly.
bigger.
Yeah.
I think our biggest expectation would have just been just that things were going to work properly. You know, things were going to run
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
And that was just based off research and you know what we sort of research that we've done into the country, and just knowing that it would be. But we never had this expectation where it could have been broken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
more just like, okay, it's going to be better
In the long run.
in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's very important, having that line, that balance between optimism and
Yeah,
realism.
exactly,
Going
exactly.
into and saying instantly,
Yeah.
I'm going to get this perfect job,
Yeah.
I'm going to settle in perfectly, everything's going to be okay, I'm going to understand everything. Because even if you're in, I think if you bring two people and one is more of a realist and the other one's high in the clouds with his optimism, the same thing would occur to both of them. But because one expected even more, they'd have a negative sort of experience rather than the person that was open-minded. And in the long run, they might find it strange even, but they'll adapt.
Exactly.
And I think that's
Yeah, definitely. And I think we kind of, as a family unit, we all decided we're going to embrace it. You know, just embrace what we don't know,
yeah,
and keep an open mind, make the most of it, and learn as much as we can while we're here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think adapt to the new life that we've set out for ourselves. And but yeah, so I suppose the biggest expectation was just
It's going to work out.
it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And if it's not okay,
We
that's
make
also,
it okay.
Yeah.
that's also okay.
Yeah.
So we kind of had that mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Years ago, I met a nurse from South Africa, a lovely woman. Unfortunately, we lost contact, and she told me that South Africa, it's about three things: rugby, safari, and barbecue. Is that right?
Yes. Rugby number one, safari, barbecue, which we would call braai. So braai.
Right.
And South Africans love their braais. And biltong. Biltong, you always have a biltong, which is like the dried meat
Okay.
that you would have at braais, and it's just like the one food that we miss
has
the
to be
most.
there,
It
okay.
has to be there. You always have biltong around.
Yeah. And
big
what-
rugby fans.
I
What's
know
the
for
meat?
meat. So, what is the meat?
Yeah,
Is it
the
pork
dry
or,
meat. Does it
It's
have
a dry meat, so it could be any type of meat.
Oh, anything.
It could-
Okay,
it could-
yeah.
Oh,
it
that's
could
my
be-
place.
It could be any type of meat.
Okay.
And it's just literally just like dried meat, and you can have it in like sort of sticks, or you can have it shaved like small pieces
Yeah,
of meat,
yeah.
almost similar to like a beef
Yeah,
jerky,
of course.
but just the South African version,
Yeah.
which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I hope I visit sometime South Africa.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
rugby, but
Rugby. Oh,
yeah.
school, I mean,
But your
schoolboy
friend,
rugby.
those three things, definitely the top three.
Yeah.
In South Africa.
I mean, schoolboy rugby there, it's, you look at some of the talents even from a young age, and the players, I mean, the
Massive.
genetics,
I
they're
know.
huge. Like I've, I just graduated, but I had a lot of schoolmates, one or two of them play for Leinster, they got called up. I know people from the year below playing for Ireland, and they're big lads, but then you go on the internet and you see people their age, they're even
From
bigger.
South Africa.
Yeah. And it's amazing, and even now, obviously, with the rugby going on, I don't know if you've been watching it.
we've been
They're doing
watching,
really
yeah,
well
yeah.
recently. So
I know, we
They're
love
all the best
usual.
teams in the world.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So
We are big rugby fans. Our daughter Taylor, she is obsessed with rugby.
really,
It's
okay,
her favorite. She knows when every game's going to be on,
okay,
what time, what channel,
yeah,
and yeah. So we are big rugby
Yeah.
fans. We always watch it. Even when Ireland are playing, we
Yeah,
watch
of
Ireland.
course.
But when South Africa plays,
Yeah.
it's
it's
a very special, that anthem, everything. It's just, it's a very special thing because of the diversity again. And I know I say diversity of South Africa a lot, but it is just so special to have that so many people just come together and that is
and
that
this
whole-
nostalgia maybe and
Exactly, yeah, and it's not as
and your childhood, the memories
Yeah.
from the childhood,
Yeah.
because I think the childhood is the best part of human life, and when you spend it in
A certain place.
a certain place.
exactly, yeah.
It's bring. I remember one match you bring me now with these emotions, similar emotions you feel are the same. We went to watch Ireland and Bulgaria. It was a friendly match. I never thought of it. If I hear something in Bulgaria about Ireland, I get emotional. Oh, Ireland, I'm so long there.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was surprised when I watched this match and when the Bulgarian had to play, and I was away. I was with him in that match more than 20 years. My eyes were full of water. So
I can imagine,
I didn't
Yeah.
expect it. I
Yeah.
didn't go there.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Bulgaria is here. But it's nice to see Bulgaria playing
Yes,
against Ireland.
yeah.
But unexpectedly I got emotional.
It is. I know exactly what you mean, and it has happened to us a few times. And that's why we watch it like three of us and at home, and we can kind of. But it's something special, and I think
out of curiosity, did you go earlier on in the year when they were playing Ireland? Did you go to the match?
we did.
Yeah.
It was a tough one
Yeah.
because and we almost a bit torn at when Ireland play against South Africa. It is. Everyone knows we always support South Africa.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
it's and I don't think we're not ashamed to admit that because it's who we are. But it is tough because a part of us know that Ireland is our new home.
Yeah.
And we also want to have that same support to the Ireland rugby team because they are phenomenal. They're great. They're a really, really strong team, and we love a lot of the guys on the team already. And we've got Ireland rugby shirts, and we've got the scarves, and we've got the beanies. You know, so we really still want to give that same amount of passion and that same amount of interest. But when the two play together, it's tricky. We South African, but at the same time we also like. I get can be quite empathetic because I'll be like, go South Africa, but then I'll feel bad if Ireland loses. You know, so because there's still a part of me that still feels like I want to support Ireland. So we obviously support Ireland when they're not playing South Africa.
Well, in the match Bulgaria and Ireland, you know, I was expecting Bulgaria to lose, so I wasn't very sad. The Bulgarian players, with no offense, but the Bulgarian soccer players spend more time in front of the mirror than training.
And even in my class, I have a South African, and see, you're smart, you know, in the middle, you know, you support until he was the opposite. He was very provocative, because super vocal South African, and it's not that he's. But when the rugby comes on, he's like, we're gonna smash you. And then eventually when, you know, they beat us, he came in and I mean he was getting booed. It wasn't because he was South African. It's simply because he walked into the class and, what did I tell you? In his thick, you know, South African accents. And you know, he sort of brought it upon himself.
And I can guarantee you there are a lot of South Africans like that. And especially when it comes to rugby.
And that's how we said the three main things. South Africa, it's a big thing.
And I went to a rugby school, so that's what made it worse. You know, it's because. But it was funny. Obviously, we're all friends. You know,
of course, I know,
but it was really funny to see that.
I can just imagine. I can just picture that because it's such a South African thing to do. Especially from like sort of. The sort of male side, because they love rugby so much, they use that little bit of like, oh, you know,
exactly.
Sports is great, bring people together, bring special emotions. I'm going to go back again to some a bit serious question again, of course, about this fantastic country, South Africa. But it's a most serious question, and I will bring a little bit of statistics as well, because South Africa seems to not only beautiful place to go on holidays, not that only that it's unique, which is amazing, you know, with the culture, with the food, with the rugby, with the scenery you can see there. But South Africa as well, maybe not many people know that it's very rich in sources. South Africa is the seventh country in the world for having coal, you know. Coal. The first in platinum, 80% of platinum is coming from South Africa. And the fifth country having the most diamonds in the world. And so on and on and on. But this is the main ones I came across, but there is so many more. So we see that South Africa is not only beautiful, unique, fantastic place to go to tourism, but it's very rich as well in sources. Do you think as well that corruption destroy, if not destroy, kind of it's playing a major role of the decline? Even having all these sources.
Definitely.
I mean, amazing sources.
South Africa is really rich in a lot of that, and I think the corruption has definitely affected that. Because of where all the financial assets and money is, how it's been distributed, where it's all going to. It's not going to the right places. It's not going back into the country. You know, so all those sources they're being used in the incorrect way. They're not being used for
infrastructure, public transport, education, and so on and on. Because I mean, it's you know, very surprising if you don't know and you go and see how much South Africa has resources. What huge wealth has it, and then you see so many poor people. How you said
the
safety. So there is not enough, obviously, police forces. Or, there is not enough public transport, or not at all. You say in some areas. Education, you say a lot of South African come for education here. So obviously they don't spend enough money for education.
Yeah.
Softly
Exactly.
said. So yeah, I think it's very, very simplistic, but I noticed one thing, and it's maybe simplistic, but it's right. Any country that has high levels of corruption, no matter how rich they are,
Yeah.
It's gonna suffer.
suffer. Most of the people will suffer.
It's the people that suffer. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They said money is the root of all evils, but I think the corruption is the root of most of the evils.
The corruption is the biggest thing, and I think that's where, I mean, we went through a stage of load shedding, where we had like no power.
Yeah.
So you could have like no power for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
It would happen almost every single day. They even created an app where it would actually give you the times
Heads
that you
up.
would have no
Yeah.
powers in your specific area, and that was
When the
because-
country has the seventh
exactly
biggest
Yeah.
coal.
Exactly, and you have no power, and the reason is because they weren't looking after the power stations, or the power station would fail. So, but where was the money to fix the power station? Because the money was, who knows what was happening?
Yeah.
It was gone.
It's evidently there somewhere.
I
Exactly.
should not be laughing, but that's remind me of Bulgaria.
I was about to say that as well. You go there and go,
No
there's
water.
no water.
After
Yeah.
2 hours, maybe next day, you have water, but you don't have electricity.
And we went through the same thing where then we had no water. So we would have the same. We had no power, and then there was a time where we had no water, and then it was back and forth. And, and the load shedding went on for years. It went up to a stage where it was almost like they even put it into levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3, and so forth. And we would sit on our phones looking to see when we were going to next get affected, because now we had to make a plan.
You're ahead. In Bulgaria, they don't give you a heads up.
And then again, there was a money making thing because they wanted to make an app.
And I call one day, I got really angry because I have to go to the university and I want to take a shower, and there is no water. And I called the county council who look after these things in Bulgaria, the local company and the county council. The secretary said to me, "Look, it's not only your area, it's another 3 areas." And I said, "What do you expect me to feel that better that somebody else doesn't have water?"
That's crazy. Exactly. It sounds so familiar.
Then here,
So
let's say,
familiar.
we're not going to go deeper into it, but
Yeah.
here, for example, if you don't provide services,
Yes.
there is a law in place.
Yeah.
And if this company do it frequently for a long time, they go to court and they pay a lot of money.
And that's the thing. Yeah, it works.
And then they say, why should I pay, say, for example, fine of 10
Yeah.
million when I can invest in the infrastructure, or cables, whatever it needs there, or pipes. So I won't be fined because I guess in South Africa, like in Bulgaria, there is no such a law in place. And
There is
nobody
no
cares
law.
about.
No.
If they in place, there is in place this law, like in Ireland on laws, then the things are different. But
And they are actually followed. See, that's the
But
they
thing.
follow.
And that's been the most amazing thing that we've seen since moving here is people follow the rules.
Yeah.
People follow the law. Even driving your car. I mean, like, when we started driving, we were worried about driving. Even though we're driving the same side of the road,
Yeah.
we're still stressful because there's a lot of roundabouts
Yeah.
in Ireland. And in South Africa, there's hardly any roundabouts.
Yeah.
There's all traffic lights. And, but people follow the road.
Yeah.
But you know
rules
why
of the
is a
road.
lot of roundabouts? I find out as well. I noticed it when I came to Ireland as well. This is for safety reasons.
Safety reasons. There you go. Yeah.
Safety, because they say in the traffic lights it's much more
People
accidents, and then in the roundabout you can go. 100 miles,
you know it's there.
Exactly. You have
and
to
also
slow
these
down.
bumps as well. They put it, and so they think of these things in Ireland much more than Bulgaria, and I guess.
And
South
people
Africa.
follow the rules. And
Yeah.
I think,
they follow.
like, I know with my husband, he loves the fact that there are rules in Ireland and
Yeah.
people follow them and they obey them. And I think that's amazing because, like, you don't have people overtaking you on the roads when you're driving. When in South Africa, you'll have people overtaking you from left, right, like, it's crazy. Where everything's, it's just, it works.
Yeah.
And people obey and people respect. And I think that's the biggest thing.
There's
another,
I would call it ugly similarity, South Africa and Bulgaria. I'm sorry to bring it back again in Bulgaria, but it's the same. It's the same in Bulgaria. 2008, if I'm not mistaken, died in the roads more people than in Iraq, and in Iraq was a civil war.
Yeah.
So because no rules, nobody cares about
Yeah.
rules. Drunk.
They're there. They're just not
It's just not
followed.
followed. Exactly.
They're there.
And so this is, it is fantastic that in Ireland is not the same like in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
And ending the episode on a higher note. Question is, where does Kirsten Beswick see herself in 10 years' time?
Oh wow.
That's a big question.
10 years time, gosh, I'll be 46. Wow.
Don't worry, it's not that bad. I'm 48.
You don't look 48, you still look like you're 40.
Oh, thank you. Next drinks in some beer.
10 years, gosh.
But talking about years, think about it for a second, and I tell you something interesting. My wife, the first time she saw you, she said, "Oh, look at this! Oh, you know this lady?" I said, "Yeah, I know her." And she said, "Well, she would be perfect a lady for our son." And I said, "Well, she's slightly older than our son." And how old is she? I said, "I don't know. Her daughter is 11, so I guess around 30. But you don't look more than 30, to be honest with you." So, they say people age as cathedrals or as loafers. I think we age as a cathedral.
It's a good thing. At least we always look younger. But
so the big question: where do you see yourself in 10 years, Kirsten?
Sure. I don't. 10 years, career-wise or just in general?
In general, every aspect. So, maybe.
Do you see yourself as a granny?
A granny?
Yeah. In 10 years? Yeah.
No, not. No, please. I don't want to be a granny.
Granny, I mean, not looking old to have grandchildren.
Exactly. I think in 10 years, from a career point of view, I would like to be a qualified project manager.
Yeah.
I think project management is a career that I want to go further into.
Yeah.
And actually do like studying a course and getting a qualification in project management. So from a career point of view, I would like to work further into being sort of like a senior project manager in some form, in some way. And personally, just keep healthy and fit.
That's very important.
I think, with also seeing in Ireland a lot of the elderly people that are always walking on the street and they're so fit and they're still going, and it's just incredible. And when in South Africa, you kind of don't really see that. So what I want to do when I'm older is still be able to, like run or walk to the shops. And
to
so
be
I think
fit,
just to be fit and just to keep, up with like kickboxing as long as I can. For as long as possible. And I mean, I'd love to travel, I think that's my biggest thing in 10 years. To try and see as many countries as possible.
And what's the one country you'd like to visit the most?
My
10 years, it has to be
one,
ticked off. It has to be
Paris. Paris is my number one. It is just like, it's always been a dream for me just to go to Paris.
I'm just there, 2 hours.
I know. And I can't travel at the moment because I'm still on a South African passport. So I need to get a visa for everything. So I'm in the process of doing my naturalization in Ireland. But Paris is my number one.
That's a big
and we might be going there at the end of the year.
Oh, there you go.
That would be lovely.
Which is really cool. So I'm going to start working on my visa. But Paris is number one.
But
10 years, it's a long time.
It is.
It's a long
10
time.
years.
It is
and in 10 years, I would also like to finish my book that I've started writing on. So that's my sort of very long-term goal.
Okay, well, you might be back then to talk about the book when it's
when it's out. We have another podcast and we want to talk about it and advertise it. Why not? Because you're an interesting person and I'm certain that the book will be very interesting.
So it's still a work in progress, but that's a 10 years. It's always been something I'm wanting to do. So that'll be a very long-term goal.
Is that the promise? When it's published, you come to
of course.
our podcast?
Yeah. First one.
That's like I corner you.
Exactly.
It's on tape anyways.
Make a promise. I'm
and it's official.
It's official. No, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our episode for today. To anybody that's watching, have any questions, comments, desires even on what you'd like to see in the future, put it into the comment section. And to anybody that hasn't clicked off, please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and we'll catch you in the next one.